Hi everyone, Miriam Tori here. Today I'm going to be presenting a timeline history analysis on the Nigerian light crude. So for my table of content, I'm going to start with the discovery and early growth. Next, the OPEC membership, followed by the militant attacks. Next, the price fluctuation, then the amnesty program and COVID-19 response, and finally, the recent security concerns. So, Nigeria made a historic discovery in the late 1950s and early 1960s, which were enormous oil deposits within its border. So, that discovery of oil in Nigeria marked the beginning of Nigeria's heavy reliance on oil revenue, which has had both positive and negative economic consequences. So, considering the positive impact, the discovery of oil brought significant revenue to Nigeria, since oil, being the major contributor to the nation's GDP, it led to a surge in the economic growth and paved the way of establishing infrastructure development, leading to a growth in the nation's revenue. After that, in 1970, Nigeria joined the OPEC membership, and that stands for the petroleum exporting countries. This membership significantly influenced Nigeria's oil production policies and export strategies. OPEC members collaborate to regulate oil production and stabilize global oil prices, and Nigeria's inclusion in OPEC brought it into the fold of an organization that had a direct impact on how much oil it could produce each year and the policies governing its export. That specific production figures for this year can be obtained from historical OPEC record. So, since Nigeria was being one of the members of OPEC, they were exposed to the production quotas, which they took advantage in order to stabilize the oil prices by mitigating the supply chain to meet the demand trends. However, the OPEC production quotas had restricted the scale of their oil production. And while the OPEC internal politics had hampered the Nigeria's export trends, since the production decision decided within the OPEC committee members, Nigeria was then forced to stand by the restrictions that were imposed on them, since there was a global standard that had detrimental impact on their export and in turn lowering their revenue growth. which then leads us to the price fluctuations. So from 2010 to 2015, Nigeria experienced fluctuations in global oil prices, and that led to changes in their annual oil production. Due to the fluctuation in the price that got impacted by geopolitical trends, the production was exposed to volatility where the oil exports were not able to meet the economic sensitivity. And while the industry experienced a surge in the demand trends, and those nations that sold oil at a higher price were able to grow its economic primarily due to their infrastructure. And when the price then fell, they were able to mitigate the loss trends. At the same time, they were also able to trade oils due to the frequent fluctuation in the related prices subjected to political play across the globe. All of these factors pushed Nigeria to experience economic stability. That in turn demanded adjustments in the budget and policies on frequent basis that made Nigeria impossible to meet the price changes. Now, the amnesty program was aimed to address regional conflicts, stabilize oil production, and mitigate security risks, and that came from the Niger Delta. They considered the regional conflict resolution between several Nigerian programs and were trying to target the grievance in the Niger Delta and reduce militant activities with the primary intention to stabilize the impact of demand trends, and also not only that, but segregate the investment across all of the other sectors. So while reducing the impact on price fluctuation and militant attacks, they thought that that would help Nigeria increase the oil production and work on a robust framework to enable optimized trade flow and also use the oil production revenue to segregate investment on an effective manner. And it also established a holistic growth nationwide. So OPEC plus the oil production cuts in 2020 were a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which also demonstrated how global events could affect oil production and also their prices. With that being said, considering the recent trends of the pandemic from the COVID-19, that led to a sharp decline in the demand trends due to global shutdown and new regulation hampering the flow of supply chain management with diverse regulations and norms being imposed, which ended up plummeting the prices, which were not mitigated by several economists. Now, while the OPEC plus nations that included Nigeria were working various models to meet the bleak demand across the world at the same time, and also investing in safety of the workers, Nigeria made several cuts to bring in rebalance in the market, such as interplay between global pandemic events and energy economics in terms of production, decision to sustain domestic supply and also demand trends. So the recent attacks on the on oil facilities in Nigeria raised many concerns about the security of Nigeria's oil infrastructure and have, most importantly, disrupted Nigerians' light crude export. So in 2021, Nigeria's Trans-Forcados pipeline was attacked, which then disrupted the export of Nigerian's light crude and impacted the country's annual oil production and export. Then in 2022, many foreign workers were kidnapped in Nigeria, which raised a lot of concerns about the security of oil infrastructure and its potential to disrupt production figures. Most recently, in 2023, multiple attacks on oil facilities in the Niger Delta resulted in significant disruption to Nigeria's oil industry. So, considering the security concerns in terms of militant attack on the oil factors, that indicates that their poor intervention to prevent threats from taking place such that they can mitigate scope of economic downfall and not let the impact spread across other related sectors that work with oil production. Any disruption in the Nigerian light crude export could have significant impact on the global supply and could lead to domestic price increase, which could affect the global price and affect American citizens and lead to inflation. To summarize everything that's been said, I would conclude by saying that the recent disruption in the Nigerian light crude market shed a lot of light on the deep links between energy economics, geopolitics, and technology. But it's also important to note that this is an ever-changing landscape that is subjected to dynamic demands, trends, exposed to market fluctuations. It is critical to examine not just the immediate consequences of such occurrences, but also the possible long-term repercussions for global energy markets and the larger economy. Because at the end of the day, this could affect all of us and not only Nigeria. Thank you.